In the early morning of June 22nd, the U.S. executed Operation Midnight Hammer, the largest B-2 bomber strike in history, targeting Iran's Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan nuclear facilities. 7 B-2s dropped 14 massive ordnance penetrator bombs. While Tomahawks hit Isfahan, the 18-hour mission launched from Missouri aimed to destroy Iran's nuclear program, which was days, we're told, from achieving a bomb. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and President Trump declared the mission a success, claiming Iran's nuclear ambitions were obliterated. Damage assessments continue amid fears of escalation of diplomatic openings. Richard C. Lyons is the author of But by the Chance of War, and he's here to dissect Operation Midnight Hammer. Was the U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear sites a decisive blow or a spark for wider conflict? He's going to unpack the history, stakes, and what's next. And Richard is a world historian, political analyst, and the author of his brand new book is But by the Chance of War. Richard, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Richard. It's really good to see you again.
Just give us, terrific. Just tell us a little bit about But by the Chance of War. I mean, I know it presents sort of 4 dramatic stories of war. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, and they're true histories of 4 different periods of war when civilization was challenged, just as we are today, where you have a conqueror style of character rise in the world and disrupt everything as far as they can go based on the fact that they're counting on people whom they faced with destruction backing up. Okay, so a great example of this would have been Attila the Hun, who invaded the Eastern Roman Empire and defeated their armies to such an extent that he could demand 2,100 pounds of gold annually per year in order to leave the East alone. Well, while the East was being attacked, the West did nothing. They said, look, as long as you leave us alone, we won't bother you. Well, right after he got done plundering the East and he saved up the funds necessary of the gold they extracted from the East, they used the money to attack the West and demanded the emperor's daughter and half the empire. So, and this sort of character rises again and again in human history. And we have it today in the shape of the Ayatollah. The Islamic Republic was born in 1979, and I think it was February 7th. And since then, they have been making demands on the West, and we have been appeasing them by not standing together, by being divided in the UN, by being divided between Europe and America, and by funding them. If the audience might remember, Obama was literally sending them pallets of cash by private planes and dumping it in Iran, whereas Biden, the Democrat successor to Obama, they decided to unfreeze Iranian assets in European banks, and that was the very money the Iranians used to fund Hezbollah and Hamas and to fund the October 7 massacres in Israel. So this has been going on for 45 years now, Richard.
Right.
This
So
has been built.
let's talk about Operation Midnight Hammer. And how does it compare to historical technological leaps in warfare? So we saw the first use of this massive ordnance penetrator bomb.
Yeah, well, there's nothing of its kind, is there, in any other nation today? And the technology to be able to fly around the earth and to deliver these bunker buster bombs they are 1 grade below a nuclear weapon. And the B-2s, they carry 2 missiles. The one goes in to carve a hole and to penetrate the earth for the second one to follow. So that the first one goes down 200 feet and the second one goes as far as it can further below. So if you're hiding something, and that's 20 stories down, right? Each story being 10 feet. 20 stories down, this thing can strike. And so whatever inventory you're warehousing there and trying to protect, is no longer protected. And I think this was a tremendous statement by Trump to terrorists around the world, that if you persist in not listening to our fair demands that you not attack people or that you disarm, I think it's a tremendous message. And also to Vladimir Putin and to China, that when Trump says something, the wise idea is to listen.
His Donald Trump's social media posts in the aftermath, describing the strike as completely and totally obliterated and calling it a spectacular military success, almost breezily then urging Iran to make peace. Yet, meanwhile, the world is raging in crisis mode. How do you interpret this kind of a casual framing in the context of historical leadership, and what might it mask in terms of strategy or risk?
I think that only Donald Trump can know. He knows how to maneuver, and this is real genius. His maneuverings maneuver the opposition in a way he wants them to go. And we can think about this domestically with regard to immigration. Every time the Democrats are fumbling for how to react to Trump's actions with regard to immigration and getting illegal aliens out of our country, they're stumbling over each other, and they're not capable of bringing a rational argument. So they end up protesting in the streets and making Trump's argument for him. Right? So he maneuvered Iran into a 60-day window and said, please listen, we need to negotiate. You're going to give up your nuclear weapons. You can either do so peacefully, and we can have a commercial relationship and a regular diplomatic relationship, or the alternative is you're going to lose your nuclear capability, and it's not going to be nice. It's going to be very, very bad for Iran. And the 60-day window was up, and I understand that the day before the 60-day window was up, the Ayatollah sent a message: we're not going to negotiate with you. It was the usual manner of the Iran reaction to American presidents going back 45 years. It was a big, hey, forget it. And exactly one day after the 60 days, or 2 days after they said, no, we don't care to negotiate, he showed them what the alternative was.
Some analysts have said that Iran could rebuild its nuclear program in 1 to 2 years. So was striking Fordo a strategic win or just a temporary setback?
This is exactly what my book, But by the Chance of War, is about, Richard. Actually, it goes into 3 historical episodes where the world unraveled. The 4th book is actually a prophecy based on modern Iran, or another Middle Eastern country bent on converting the earth to an Islamic orthodoxy. And it goes into how hard it is to contain someone who's gone mad. It's hard to contain the technology anymore. And I think what the manner Trump is putting forward is, rather than being a conqueror of historical kind that plunders, rapes, and murders their way through the world, why can't we prosper through peace? And so he's initiating these trade agreements with other countries, and the Abraham Accords with other countries in the Middle East, to tie a web based on commercial interest, common commercial interests, from which, because it is peaceful, everybody prospers. No one's injured. No one's hurt. So Iran is the extreme of the opposite kind of how do you react to a predator? You have to take their teeth out. You have to take their claws off, right? The other way is, hey, why can't you be reasonable? Why don't we negotiate? Why don't we come to a mutually beneficial economic and trade partnership that Iran will respect your religion, but you're not going to convert us, right? And we can get on with each other. We can live in a world without, and this goes back to that old movie, you remember Josie Wales?
Oh, yes.
We can live together without butchering each other. And so Iran is in the style of as old as human existence, of predators in the jungle, and he's going to keep devouring everybody in the area until somebody stops him,
So,
right?
th- so this
And
is commerce over ideology. Why? Which is interesting because his envoys have been trade negotiators, not sort of Harvard educated diplomats.
right, and the Harvard educated people, that's how you appease people. Neville Chamberlain was of their sort. I think he went to Oxford. Yes, if you give Hitler what he wants, he's going to stop, right? If you give Iran nuclear capability, they're not going to use it. They're going to be peaceful because we gave them nukes. The minute they get a weapon, the whole world changes. The minute they get one nuke, they can say to America, if you do anything against us, we'll send this one bomb to Israel and eliminate it. That's 9 million people. And then the Iranians would blame us, right? It's America's fault. They came against us. We were defending ourselves. So this was very timely, and I mean, people can read in the fourth part of this book, not very long, um, the alternative with allowing someone in the Middle East, which is a tinderbox of hatred, to have nuclear weapons, this sort of power. It's cataclysmic and it can bring the end of the world.
What historical parallels warn of unintended consequences from strikes like those on Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan? I mean, let's look at maybe the potential risks here. Are there some unintended consequences here, and what can we learn from history?
Historically, I'm not sure, but when you crack a regime like this that has many fingers, they built up over years, Richard, a kind of a multi-headed hydra kind of thing. There was Hamas and there's Hezbollah, there's the Houthis in Yemen. And these are all unorthodox fighting organizations. They don't fight as armies. They fight as terror cells, right? So when you stop down one, the others scurry, right? And they go away and they lick their wounds, they wait for better funding, they rearm, they come back. So that's the worry that this sort of diaspora of the radical religious Islamic movement, which again goes back further than the origination of the Iran Islamic Republic. It goes back to 700 AD. So the worry is that this metastasizes into small cells that are reacting internationally out of Yemen and other states and come internally into countries in Europe or America. But I can assure you that the outcome after what happened a couple of days ago will be better than what would have been the outcome if Iran, we would have been waking up literally tomorrow morning, Richard, to a nuclear armed Iran, which could say, unless you give me 2,100 pounds of gold, London, UK, we're going to set off this missile. And with the money London would then appease them with, they would be growing a greater nuclear capability, a greater terrorist capability. So this was a punch right in the face, and I think it's a good one.
I want to talk a little bit about Representative Thomas Massie. Now there's this huge feud between President Trump and Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie saying that there was no imminent threat. He's joined with kind of an unlikely ally in Democrat from California, Ro Khanna, Ro Khanna, in sort of decrying the strike. Ro Khanna said, "I'm always open to new intelligence, but the procedure should have been Congress to be briefed before we decided to enter war and actually have a vote on it." Just maybe your thoughts on Thomas Massie. There was no imminent threat.
There's always going to be, and it's the wonderful thing about democracies, our type of government. No matter what your party is, there's always going to be someone within your party who speaks against your policy. And there's always going to be an opposite party that's going to be correcting you if you make any errors. I can say this, they were within weeks, and we will never be certain, but certainly within weeks of having a bomb and being able to launch it. Secondly, to Ro Khanna's point, how long do you think all the congresspersons and all of their staffers and all of their contacts would have kept a secret a mission like came off Saturday night? There couldn't have been a mission because it would have been all over, and our airmen would have died. And this Iran would have metastasized the consequences of this.
I just want to give it a bit of a Canadian context here, because Prime Minister Mark Carney publicly endorsed the strike, even saying he spoke with Trump about de-escalation, supported the use of force to neutralize a nuclear threat. How do you interpret that alignment? I mean, does it reflect genuine strategic unity, or is this political theater? I mean, and I guess, what does it signal about Canada's willingness to follow U.S. military leadership?
I think it's wonderful. I think the reason that Iran, how it germinated, how it grew, how it became this hydra that is attacking Western interests throughout the Middle East with relative impunity, right? I think the reason that happened is because Europe and America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, we didn't all stand together and say, hey, we're going to stop trading with you. We're going to hit you back. For every terrorist attack, you're going to suffer, and badly. It is the lesson of history that, like, when the Munich Agreement came along and they were appeasing Hitler with, okay, we'll give you the Sudeten land in Czechoslovakia, right? And that was a French and English policy at the expense of Poland and Czechoslovakia. If the four had stood together, and more importantly, if FDR had stood there and said, I guarantee the safety of Czechoslovakia and Poland. And Hitler, if you move a foot outside of Germany, the whole American army is coming in there. There might never have been a World War II with that sort of show of force and that sort of unity.
What's the likely trajectory over the next 30 days? More strikes, diplomacy, war fatigue? I guess maybe based on historical patterns.
I think the Iranians are going to exhaust their capacities to launch further missile strikes over the next 30 days. I think they're going to have backdoor communications to Russia and China in hopes of stabilizing their regime. I think they'll keep giving us the brush off, right, in hopes of regrouping their elements of Hamas, Hezbollah in Yemen, and then getting China and Russia to finance them further. But I think we dealt them such a blow now, Richard, they're going to have a hard time finding friends. They have nothing to offer anymore. What have they ever offered? Look at where Hamas is, buried underneath Gaza. And where is Hezbollah? Leaderless. And who's going to be the next commander-in-chief in Iran? They took out the last two. So, who wants that job? So I think they're going to find out. And this is where we are. And it's a lesson in history. Do you want to plunder, rape, and murder your way through the world? Or do you want to be at peace, free to practice your faith? Just don't put a gun to my head about mine. And we can have a mutual commerce, mutual prosperity based on peace. The choice is very stark. And I think the great elements of the Middle East are coming to the fore in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, and perhaps even in Qatar, to say we would rather be friends than be enemies of the United States and Israel, etc. Let's get together and advance this idea that working together as a species rather than devouring each other is a good idea.
But by the chance of war, Richard, how do we get a copy?
You can go to richardclyons.com or to Amazon, as most people do. If you ask for it at any retail shop, they'll find it for you.
Fantastic. Richard, great catching up with you again. Again, congrats on the new book.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Great to be with you again.
Hey, this is Richard Syrett. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.